I am back with the lovely April Chapman. April, how are you today?
Listen, overwhelmed, but in a good way. I am so glad to be here. Thanks for having me,
It's a
Pierre.
pleasure. Listen, I had to return the favor because you had me on your show
This
not
is
long
true.
ago.
This is
And you are
true.
blowing up. Your show is doing big
Thank
numbers
you.
now, right?
Yes, by God's grace, we just crossed over 125,000 subs.
Congrats.
And that is pure organic growth.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God for that opportunity.
Talk a little bit to me about your journey to get to a show, because I remember when we first met, I think you were still like trying to figure out, like you knew where you stood, but you hadn't really spoken up fully yet, right? Am I saying that right?
You're right. I had not, I was wifing and mommying,
Yeah.
right? And I was a small business owner. And so there was this little hesitancy to talk about my story and my journey to conservatism, because you're still kind of worried about what are people going to think? What is the blowback going to be? And so I started incrementally on Facebook talking about my worldview, grounding it in the fact that my conservatism flows from my biblical worldview. And then in 2022, I'll never forget, I was talking with my husband and he was like, the kids are getting older. He was like, it's time, start your podcast. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to watch. And then I had some other conservative podcasters, Dear Woke Christian, and a few other individuals kind of encourage me and push me out there. And January 1st, 2022 was my first show, and it's been rocking and rolling ever since.
Wow. I mean, being able to watch your journey and see where you are today is incredible, even for me to watch, right? Because I know you've always been a light to so many people. You always been willing to help people, whatever you can do to help. Every time I see you, like, what do you need? You need something? Can I help you? Can I help you?
Right.
So to see you actually shining in this way, I think is making me proud, right? To watch your growth and see where you are. What type of topics do you really hit on your show? I want people to hear a little bit more about your show and why you felt it was important for your voice in this moment.
Well, we have Black liberalism. They are very loud and they are proud about what I would call their wrongshiousness, right? I've made up this word, wrongshiousness. And I did not feel that there was this Black female conservative voice that was proud about being a wife, proud about being a mother, standing on biblical values, and then willing to call out what I call that matriarchal squalor that we see in the culture where, it's a biblical term, but we are effectively living the effects of 4 generations of bastards raising bastards. If you think about from the 1960s on forward, that's pretty much all we've seen. And so I kind of view myself as this female advocate for biblical values rooted in a solid nuclear family structure. But then I also have, the little street cred because I'm from the Bronx, right? So I'm not like your cookie cutter, button up, really stiff conservative. I still have, my little New York swag with a little Southern charm and a little, Jesus in my heart, my knot on my hip. I'm a freedom loving, a patriot. I love this country. And so I talk about family values on my show. I call out the culture. I talk about the Taquashans and the Shaquanas in them that are making the Black American experience they're pulling it down, as opposed to us being the beautiful people that we used to be. When you think about the Harlem Renaissance, everybody was trying to be like us, dance like us, dress like us, just have the style like us. And so I talk about things like that, and then I root all of that commentary in a biblical worldview. Right.
That's what I love the most, is that whenever, even when I was on your show, every question, everything felt like it was rooted in a biblical standpoint, right? And because it's one thing to be a conservative, it's another to be a Christ follower, a true Christ follower.
That's right.
And so I noticed that when I was on your show, you've been talking a lot about the family, and I want to touch on that a little bit.
Right.
What's happened with the Black family? What's the issue today? Because you see the amount of kids being born out of wedlock. You see people talk about, I don't need no man, that culture of I'm a strong, independent Black woman.
Right.
I don't need a man in my life. What has happened to us to get to a place where that's the kind of stuff that we're speaking and talking about today?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, after the civil rights operation of the 1960s, I don't think a lot of us remember how feminism hitched their wagon to the civil rights movement. They didn't fight. They weren't marching in the streets. But effectively, feminism was able to gain the traction that it did. And unfortunately, Black American females, we listened to the white liberal feminists who wanted liberation and thought that motherhood and marriage was oppressive, when we didn't think that way. You had abortion pretty much convince us that exterminating our progeny was more useful and beneficial for our human flourishing than staying with our husbands and creating families. And so what you're seeing now is the outworkings of that many generations removed from the civil rights movement, to where women no longer want to be virtuous. They don't want to be wives. They don't want to be mothers. They want to pursue everything out there that pretty much doesn't lead. They're not happier. If you think about how many of us are on antidepressants, are, we're crashing out at work and we're not doing well. No offense, but we were not the type of women that you'd find us at the cryobank buying male seed in order to procreate. But that's where we are now, because we've believed the lie rather than the truth about what God has spoken about who we are. Being a woman has nothing to do with being weak. Being the weaker vessel means that you deserve to be protected. You deserve to be provided for. But there's this care, custody, and control and responsibility that we owe men who are building and have built the world that we get to live and enjoy. And so the Black family, because of fatherlessness, the heads of our homes are missing. And so we're basically living, I call it matriarchal squalor, where there's no order, lots of disruption, lots of chaos, which breeds what I call a ratchetane culture. That's the female imbecile who can't manage her misery, so she's showing out. You see them everywhere. Now they're sitting on the bench. They're running our municipalities, and then young girls are thinking that's what a boss chick looks like. She's loud, obnoxious, disrespectful. She's single, no man in sight. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs, but this is where we are.
And I think also removing the father from a home was something that the left intentionally did in a way to control our community. And you're actually seeing a shift now, a little bit of where the left is focusing a lot on illegal immigration, and they're crying about the fact that illegals are being removed from our country, and they're saying they're the ones who do all these things for us, and the country can't run without them, as if American citizens are not sitting here today available to do many of these jobs.
I'm gonna tell you a little bit about that. What people are forgetting is that the party, they have, or should I say liberals, let me say that, they have always been the group of oppression, subjugation. They are masters looking for slaves and slaves looking for masters. So when you bring in that illegal immigration component, what you're seeing is the outworking of that. They need a new slave class that they can dangle the carrot and give them free stuff in exchange for votes. Little known fact, put this in your pocket because you're going to need this. The United States Census counts people, and these congressional districts are appropriated based on persons and not citizens. And so if you have 20 million illegals in the country, that is 20 more congressional seats that are being added. And this is why all of the illegals are being funneled into the blue sanctuary cities. They have just figured out another way to gain the upper hand advantage by manipulating. People say, oh, no one is stealing elections. Well, maybe not in that way, but the illegal immigration issue is definitely another psyop in order for the left to gain more control and to create their next slave class.
And, you see this playing out a little bit in Chicago.
A lot.
With that mayor,
Yes.
Give me your thoughts. I need to hear your thoughts on what's going on out there.
That darn Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson is a melanated Marxist if I've ever met one. I did not think Chicago could go worse than Lori Lightfoot. And when Brandon Johnson won, I said, they just signed their death wish. But here's the good news. I think there are so many Black Americans who now, after Brandon Johnson, they're like, I see it, because he played in their faces. He rolled out the red carpet for the illegal immigrant, gave away all of the resources that belong to the people in that community and gave it to the immigrant, and then tried to gaslight you to make you think that you were somehow unkind or unloving because you didn't want to share your space with the illegal immigrant. Now, as a Christian, two things can be true at the same time. We are to love the sojourner. However, we have to be able to identify who is the sojourner. Why are you here? How long are you staying? Can you provide for yourself? Our country is incredibly benevolent, but when you take advantage of that benevolency, now you're starting to see with Donald Trump, he's like, no, y'all got to go back home. And so I support this. I voted for that. And you ain't got to go home, but you got to get on up out of here. You can go to Syria if you want to. We don't care.
Anywhere but here.
Right.
Well, April, it's been a pleasure sitting down with you. What's next? Where can people find you, and what's next for April Chapman?
So what's next for me, I have my hand in so many different projects. Vince Everett Ellison, who's actually my brother in the Lord and my client, we just recorded a course on Black conservative thoughts.
Oh, I love it.
And so we just wrapped up the recording for that, and we're going to be launching that soon. Working on some more documentaries. My channel, Unshakable with April Chapman. You can find me on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, and the TikTok.
The TikTok.
On the TikTok. I'm on the TikTok. Yes, but that's where you guys can find me.
Thank you, April. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
Love you guys.